mute. Hold on.
All right, you guys hear me? You good? Again, sorry for the delay. We start with Nick and Hutch. Go ahead and get started, please.
Yeah, Nick, I was wondering how practices have been going, and are y'all looking forward to the opportunity to play in front of some fans on Sunday?
Oh yeah, practice has been going good. We've been practicing hard, for the past, ever since this, new time has started. Just trying to get everything going, for the season. And I'm super excited for Sunday. It's my first college red and white game, scrimmage game, so it should be it's gonna be a fun experience for me because I went last year and I saw how exciting that was. So, it should be good for the team, and we're gonna get after it.
Yeah, this isn't the first time y'all have played the red-white game in Barnhill, but being an in-state guy, I mean, are you familiar with the history of Barnhill? Is there any added excitement about that at all, being an in-state guy?
No, not really. I just want to play. It really don't matter where we play at, honestly. No disrespect to the history of Barnhill, but I'm just trying to hoop.
Bob?
Hey Nick, how you doing? One thing we asked Eric and some of the guys about, I guess was Trevin and Ricky a couple weeks ago, was that in Europe you guys did a lot of good things, but turnovers were an issue, and really you were the only consistent 3-point shooter. How would you say turnovers and 3-point shooting has been going in practice? And maybe who else has been knocking down some threes besides you?
Well, as a team, we just try to get extra shots in every day. Coach Muss, explains to us how important it is to get shots up every day. And the turnovers, it was a learning experience. That was our first time actually playing with each other. And, I'm pretty sure that when the season starts, we ain't gonna have that many turnovers as we had, for sure.
And then the red white game, I mean, you guys are obviously going at each other every day in practice, but how competitive is the red white game? Is that a big deal to be on a winning team, or?
Yeah, you have a little bit of edge if you win against the other players. We're gonna get after it for sure. I know Coach Muss gonna let us get after it.
Have you been in Barnhill before? I mean, shot around or anything, or gone
No, I've been in there, but I ain't never really just shot around for real in Barnhill.
Yeah. And then you guys had the pro day the other day. I think there were 29 teams of everybody, but Minnesota was there, who I don't think has a pick. But you're obviously a guy that's talked about as a real high draft pick. What was the pro day experience like for you and the team?
It was cool. Just seeing scouts there. Some people was kind of pretty used to the environment. I just tried to treat it like a normal practice. We got after it. Some people had AB had a good showing, TB had a good showing, I think. Everybody really did what they had to do, basically. We just had a good experience, just seeing that the NBA scouts was there, and, it was like a normal practice to me.
Were you guys were you nervous at all, or you're kind of beyond that with all the stuff you've done already?
Well, for me personally, I wasn't nervous. But once the season started kicking in, them butterflies gonna kick in, but I should be straight.
Okay, thanks.
Curtis?
Hey, Nick, obviously you guys got a taste of playing some outside competition in Europe. Then you came back and you've been going through the grind of practice for several weeks, but you're less than a month away from the regular season starting. Just curious, what's maybe the vibe or the mood around the team as you guys start to ramp up and get closer to the season?
Well, the vibe of the mood is just going hard every day. That's the vibe of the mood right there. If you ask Coach Muss, he ain't slacking on whatever we need to do. We're trying to have a winning season, and that's what we're gonna try to go for. We're gonna try to make it far in the tournament. We got to get there first. So, just trying to be more prepared than any team in the country. We have like 12 new guys, 6 freshmen, and 2 returners or something like that. So, we understand that. So, I feel like we doing a pretty good job of mixing together early. And about time, when everything started going, I feel like we should be right there.
And then obviously you mix it up with these guys every day. I'm curious from your standpoint, is there a teammate of yours that maybe isn't being talked about enough? Maybe someone that's really stood out to you individually at practice and through workouts?
I say Darian Ford. He's been good for us for this past week. He's been making big plays, not necessarily just scoring the ball, but I'm saying just making defensive plays, getting 50-50 balls, that's his game. So I feel like he's been playing good this week. He's been playing good. Once he figured it out, he been playing good all this time we've been practicing. So, I feel like that's probably one of the most underrated players that haven't been,
Scotty.
Yeah, Nick, I'm just curious, what have you noticed in practice that you guys are, pretty good at? Like what parts of the game would you consider a strength for this team?
One of our strengths is going to be defense for sure. We're not going to, what Coach Muss has taught us, a lot of defensive schemes, stuff that, we ain't never really got taught before. I feel like we should be the most competitive and the most, like lengthwise. I feel like we right there with, any team in the country. And I feel like a lot of white people are not going to really score a lot of points on us.
Where would you say that your game has grown most since you got to campus?
Well, my body, I gained a lot of pounds, a lot of weight, just trying to get in shape. I feel like I got in pretty good shape this year. My shooting, I feel like my shooting got a lot better, dribbling off the ball, a lot of stuff I came here and worked on, it showed, but at the end of the day, I got to do that stuff in the game where it don't matter. So just trying to get prepared for that.
And the last thing for me, just what are your thoughts on the team's bigs right now? Like, where do you think that you've seen growth from those guys since you got back from Europe?
When the bigs are going to be a really good piece for us. Coach Muss really never had like bigs for real. So this year is probably going to be I think it's going to be his first year with bigs. I think we got 4 bigs. So, it should be a good run for us. We're very long, tall. We can switch off ball screens. We can, hard heads. We can basically do anything. It just depends on what, the offense gives us. But, I feel like our bigs are going to be pretty good this year.
Courtney.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. Perfect. Hey, Nick, I know we've talked about the red and white game, but what for you, like being an in-state guy, what does it mean to play in front of the fans and get that experience for the first time?
It's going to be, I'm not really sure yet. It ain't really hit me yet. I feel like once I get in the arena and walk in, actually see the people, that's when it's going to hit me. But, right now I'm just thinking about the times we're going to have and, starting Sunday, with the fans and, it should be a pretty fun experience. Like I said, it's going to be my first time. It's going to be the other freshman's first time. So it's going to be a lot of excitement for us. We're going to be getting up and down and, showing what we can do. So about time I get there and get going, it's going to be like a surreal moment for me.
Perfect. That's it for me. Thanks.
Randy.
I don't know if I have a microphone with this or not. Can you hear me?
Good.
Okay. Nick, has there been any particular point of emphasis by Coach Muss, anything that y'all have been working on specifically?
Like I said before, shooting the basketball is one of our big concerns. But I feel like we can shoot the basketball, though. I mean, it's not really a big concern for us. As long as we continue to get in the gym and have everybody locked in and everybody, doing what they need to do, I feel like we should be a pretty good shooting team. He's been talking a lot about defense, being tough, being competitive, because one thing about Muss, he don't really like losing, and I don't like losing either. So one thing we're going to do is we're going to be competitive. We're going to try to win every game.
How do you see this team rebounding the basketball?
We're going to be a pretty good rebounding team for sure. Rebounding is all about competing. If you're not competing, you're not really going to get any loose balls, any rebounds. So, I feel like we have I feel like we have 15 guys that really want to win. And so once we get in the season, we should see how everything goes out. But, I feel like we should be a very competitive team.
Thanks, Nick.
Bob, follow up?
Yeah, Nick, you mentioned adding some weight. Well, do you know what your weight was and what it is now? Like when you first got here, what was it? And then what have you gotten it up to now?
Well, before I came here, I think I was like 179, all bones. Now I'm around like 185, somewhere around that range.
Okay. And then, Devo's obviously the older guy, only third-year guy in the program. Even a guy as good as you, maybe what have you learned from watching Devo, or how's he been in practice? Kind of how's he doing that leadership thing for the younger guys?
Devo's been great for us, just telling us about, all the, the little stuff that, coach wants. And, I feel like he's done a pretty good job with the team. And, he's going to continue to be that guy for us. And, one thing about Devo, he's also very competitive too. And he don't really like losing. So I feel like that would be a good piece for us, when it comes to March. Because, it's all about, he's a big time player. He makes big shots. He gets big time stops. But basically, I mean, Devo is just Devo,
That's got one where you guys are like in the top 10 and some of the preseason polls coming out. I'm sure you'll be in the top 10 and probably every poll that comes out. Just wondering how y'all feel about that. What's your reaction to that?
I don't really have a reaction because we haven't played a single game yet. So, we'll see where we end up when we first start. But, the rankings and stuff really doesn't matter right now.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, Nick, I had a question. I'm just curious how, as a freshman, you've kind of handled taking on, I guess, a leadership role. I think Eric back in the spring kind of called you like that alpha personality. Like how have you handled that, or has it kind of not been a big deal? Just, I guess, because that's kind of who you are.
It's just, I don't know. It's just how I grew up. I always, was playing against older guys, so I always felt like I had a chip on my shoulder, something to prove. And I feel like that, coming in, I feel like I had a lot of stuff to prove. People saying I'm a freshman and stuff like that, that I'm not gonna, do in particular things, which is fine. We'll just see what happens. I'm just a very competitive guy. I don't really like losing, and I'm very serious about my craft, and I'm very serious about having the team, in one big family. So, as the season progresses, I feel like we should be straight. The guys we have is really bought into what we're trying to do, and we're just going to see what happens.
Nick, thanks very much for your time. Appreciate it.
I appreciate y'all. Yeah. You want to
All right, we'll welcome in Jordan Walsh now. Scotty, get us started, please.
Yeah, Jordan, I guess just points of emphasis for you since you got back from Europe. I think maybe a little bit of shooting struggles over there, but did some other things to contribute to winning. I guess just what's been your focus since you got back?
A lot of like the big point for me in Europe was finishing around the rim and then making more shots on the perimeter. Coach had me doing a lot of like extra finishing drills because in Europe I was like double pumping a lot when I was going towards the rim, like trying to avoid contact, but when I should have been, attacking contact and going through people. So it was something I had to work on. It's kind of like a mindset change, just getting ready for like the college level. And I feel like he's done a good job with helping me get there so far. We got a lot left to do, but he's done a good job so far.
We just talked to Nick and asked him about kind of just being a leader as a young guy. How have you seen Nick handle that? I would imagine probably a pretty vocal guy in practice. Like Eric called him an alpha type guy in the personality wise in the spring. Just what do you see from Nick there?
Yeah, he's definitely one of the leaders on the team. Being a point guard that we're really going to rely on this year. I feel like he has a lot of responsibility put on his shoulders, and he's handling it well. Like Coach said, he's leading in practice. He's talking. He's doing all the good things that help practice be more than just a practice. Like now, then it feels like okay, yeah, we're preparing for a game, even though we don't play for another month. Like we feel like we're preparing for a game.
Last thing for me, just Trevin had a really good trip to Europe. What's he been like since he's been back, and kind of what are you most excited to watch him do this year?
Since he's been back, I mean, he's been pretty much doing the same stuff, just being consistent, doing his role really, really well. I know that he's been consistent so far, so I don't think that he won't be consistent during the season. So I know that if he keeps doing what he's doing, then he's going to be a big part of this team too this year when we try to, get some success.
Courtney?
Yeah, sorry. It just takes me a little bit to unmute this thing over here. Jordan, I'm curious to know your thoughts on the red-white game and how you feel, going to be playing in front of a crowd for the first time this season.
Yeah. So I came last year to the red and white game, and the atmosphere was amazing. I loved it. It was like every seat was packed out, and I was thinking to myself, like, yo, we're not even like playing a real game. Like it's just like a scrimmage almost, but it's like everybody showing up, showing out, talking. It was great. I saw a lot of the recruits there. I got to meet some of them for the first time, so that was awesome. The pace of the game kind of surprised me too, because it being just a scrimmage, they were still moving like really fast. So I know Muss wants to have that same, tenacity this year with the team. But it was all around a great experience for me. And
then Nick kind of mentioned some bragging rights. You guys are competitive with each other, obviously at practice, but now you're in a game kind of environment. What's that going to be like for you guys? I mean, have you kind of talked about that a little bit, Of
course. Like you said, everybody's competitive, so it's all about the win. So, people are going to talk their trash like they usually would, but it's nothing different from like us playing, a game against a real team. It's all about the win. Like we're going to do whatever it takes to win, no matter what. And then after that, you have bragging rights. You can talk a little trash after, and then we go on with practicing the next day.
Perfect. That's it for me. Thank you,
Bob.
Jordan, how do you feel about playing in Barnhill Arena? It's obviously old school. That's where a lot of great players played there, but Orange hadn't played there regularly since the early 90s.
Yeah, it's always an honor to be in, a place where the greats were, where the people who were the greatest at what they did played at. It's always good to be in that type of atmosphere. I'm excited. We haven't got a chance to be in Bud Walton much this year. It's pretty much all just been the practice facility. So just to even be able to step out into, an arena like Barnhill, it's a big step up. Like it's a change of scenery. Plus we get to put on for the fans. We get to have fun amongst each other and compete. So I'm hoping for a great experience.
And then you guys had pro day the other day. I saw a little bit of video. I know a lot of scouts were there. How'd you feel like that went? You're obviously a guy, that's being projected as a first round pick. Just did you feel any pressure? I know you got the whole season to play and all that, but just kind of what was that experience like for you, and how'd you think it went for everybody?
It was a great experience, being my first pro day, first official pro day. It was great. I feel like it went well. The team had a lot of fun. I feel like people watching had fun and they enjoyed what they were seeing. Everybody had a good day.
And I know Musk kind of prepared us for pro day, just telling us what it would be like and like the expectation of what everything would be. So going into it, we weren't really blind. We were kind of in the know. So that was great that we kind of like went into it knowing what was going to happen.
Well, what was his advice? And did you just kind of go out there? And I think Nick said he just kind of treated it as a normal practice. Like I said, were you nervous, or what was your approach? And what was there anything in particular Eric told you that made it a little easier?
So, I mean, I wasn't nervous. If like Nick said, felt like a normal practice. It was just people watching us, which is it's just like that in the game. So it just, it feels normal. Coach Musk was before practice, he would tell us like, y'all just do your regular practice habits, like practice how you've been going. You've all been going hard. If you just continue doing that, then you'll look good to anybody, including like the staff or like NBA guys or whoever it is watching. They'll all think you look good, but just because you're going hard.
It's got one more. I know in Europe, you guys did a lot of things well, but had a lot of turnovers. And outside of Nick, nobody shot the ball real well from the perimeter on 3-pointers. I know you're probably a better 3-point shooter than you showed. How do you think you're coming along with your 3-point shooting, the team, and how do you think you guys are kind of fixing the turnover issues?
Those are two big points of emphasis that Coach Musk has made ever since the Europe trip. We're turning over the ball a lot, and we're kind of on the lower percentage of threes right now. So it's all about Coach Musk has made it a statement to where we have to come in and shoot extra. Like, you got to get this work in because we need to be able to knock those open threes down. And then along with that, it's with the turnovers, you got to like better your ball handling, better your passing, like just making better decisions on the court, so that we can fix that. And then once we fix that, we'll be able to run up and down the court, no turnovers, knocking down threes, play the type of game that everybody wants to watch.
Thanks.
Hutch.
Yeah, Jordan, I know you mentioned it before that you struggled shooting the ball over in Europe, but I know Coach Musk, before y'all went over there, told us the story that when he was at Nevada, he had a player that struggled on a foreign trip and then ended up having a really good regular season. Does having that history maybe give you a little bit of confidence that you can get it turned around and have a really good year shooting the ball?
Yeah, of course. Knowing that it's been done before, knowing that it's not impossible, it definitely gives me confidence to know that, okay, I can go out and do the same thing or even better. I'm excited for this year coming up because we've been putting in a lot of work. We've improved a lot in the areas that we're weak at, including shooting. So it's gonna be one crazy year, and I'm excited for it.
Appreciate it.
Curtis.
Hey, Jordan, I guess one thing about the red-white game, it kind of signals that the regular season's getting close. I know you guys have been doing a lot of practicing, but now that you're ramping it up, these exhibition games coming up, you're getting closer to the regular season. What's the vibe and the mood around the team?
Well, we've been practicing for months and months now, and now we have, something to look forward to. It's like the red and white games or like pro day or just small events like that just give the whole team, that just uplifts everybody's spirits when knowing that, they have something to look forward to. So it's great. The atmosphere in the gym right now is just, preparing to compete. Everybody's like a little on edge, a little nervous, just ready for that first game. Like, we have an exhibition game we're going to play, but after that, the season's here, and I think we're going to be ready.
Randy, final question?
Jordan, what do you think your role is going to be with this team?
I think that I'm the type of guy, is just gonna do whatever it takes to get the W. So whatever coach wants me to do, like, that's what I'm gonna do. Whether he wants me to shoot threes, play defense, bring the ball up the court, post up, like whatever it is, I'm gonna just fill that spot. I'm not clear on my role as of now, but whatever he needs, I'll be there to do it for sure.
Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jordan. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you all.
make sure it's good, just because you have a lot of over here. I told you that, and he was good. I gave him like 3 talking points. He just looked at me like, no.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I wasn't expecting that, honestly.
Coach will be here shortly. They got stuck in a little traffic coming back from lunch.
I thought maybe going out to LA for the Padres and Dodgers.
That's after practice. He got the jet ready.
I bet he does.
He should have a helicopter at this point, get him around town quicker.
Yeah, I'm gonna get my Padres hat, see if he notices. I mean, it's a 50th anniversary thing. I mean, is he gonna be a minute?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you guys see this logo? This is their 50th anniversary. I got this when I was out there in 2019, went to a ball game.
No, he did. Yes. Are you serious? Oh, that's to me, that's classic. That's so great.
I think he's gonna love it, Bob.
Can you guys see it? Can you tell? It's a
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
At a weird angle. You might have to lean in and
Yeah,
like
lean in.
really-
Yeah.
Oh, look, we're like Eric.
Yeah.
He's got pretty good eyesight, I think. Yeah, it's the swinging friar 1969, 2019. That was they were an expansion team in 69.
Oh, you're on mute right now.
Okay.
Wow. Bob,
Yes.
I like that hat.
Yeah, it's the 50th anniversary. I got this. I was out there in 2019. So since the Tigers suck, I've adopted the Padres as my playoff team.
Oh, I love that.
We won't get there for like 50 more years, probably.
I don't know why this chair won't go up. There we go. All right. You guys ready?
All right, Curtis, go ahead and get started, please.
Hey, coach, I know you guys evaluate your team in practice every day, but just curious, what do you hope to gain as a staff out of this red-white game? And then just the overall anticipation of playing in front of the home crowd for the first time with this group?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're still in an evaluation period. It's, I think we're pretty good right now when we have drills. But then I think when we go live, we still have to learn to take our drill work into live action. We got a long way to grow. The red and white game will give us an ability to go back and watch film, evaluate. But that's what we do every day too, Curtis. So it's like, you're watching these guys on a daily basis. We've taken more stats this year than any other off season. We're charting everything. And it's really given us what I think is a really fair evaluation, because we have, when we do 5-on-0 drills, we're charting shots. When we go live, we're taking full stats. Again, just some things that, that we haven't really done this detailed in the past, but we've got to become a much, much better shooting team. I've been saying that for a long time. And it has not changed. It's actually, the numbers have remained pretty steady. So we've got to be a great free throw attempt team. I don't know if I answered your question and went off base, probably, as usual.
No, you did. That's perfect. And I think this is the first time we've talked to you since the schedule was officially released. Just curious your overall thoughts on Ruta's work and how it all lined up. On paper, it looks like a challenging slate.
Yeah, I think it's really challenging. I think it's one of the hardest schedules that we've been a part of, if not the hardest. Obviously, the Maui field, really challenging. We're really young. And not only are we really young, but we have a lot of new pieces, and so we're continuing to try to improve. Some of the simple concepts that we have had in the past with our closeout techniques, we still haven't grasped that the way that we need to. So. If we had 5 more months of training camp, we probably still would need more, but the schedule's upon us.
Courtney?
Hey, Coach, just a couple of questions from me. I'm curious to get your thoughts on how Pro Day went. Obviously, a lot of good things coming out about that. From your standpoint, as a coach, did anyone stand out to you? Were you surprised by anyone's performance? How did it go?
Yeah, Pro Day was great. I think the number one thing for, from our coaching staff is, how do we put the players in the drills and then in live action that the scouts want to see. And so we reached out to almost every team, a little bit unique, and asked them what they wanted to see. We asked them, what do you think of this drill? So we tried to do as little coaching, as little coach voice as possible, and as much evaluation, whether it's a shooting drill that could be evaluated for the NBA level. We did only drills that you would see in an NBA setting. We didn't do any drills that what I would consider, college type drills. So the feedback was really good. And as usual, depending on who you talk to, once the pro day was over, you got a variety of good feedback on certain players, and certain teams will always like certain player, and others will like another player. But we got really good feedback. Just little details about the books that we put together for the NBA people's a little bit different, a little bit more detailed, with bios, measurements already in the book, so that we weren't doing those in front of them, and we could get to more live action. Creating uniforms for pro day make us a little bit unique from a professionalism standpoint on how we wanted to look from the coaching staff gear to the players gear. But I think it was a real good success, and it allowed our players to perform under some pressure as well.
Awesome. And just one more question for me. I want to get your thoughts on the Texas exhibition game, because we talked to Coach Beard and he was super grateful that you guys agreed to do that game. What challenges does that present for you guys right off the bat? I know it's just an exhibition, but it's a great one to start off, to kick things off with.
Yeah, we wanted to play on the road, because we have so many new players and 6 freshmen that have never traveled as a collegiate player. And then we have a lot of transfers, obviously, that have never traveled with us. So 11 new travel members out of our 13. We played Coach Beard when I was at Nevada, and that game went into overtime. His teams are always really, really tough, physical. He has a really mature team this year. If you look at the age difference, quite a drastic age difference in our 2 rosters this year, which I think will prepare our guys. But the one thing, at least in our opinion, in our offices, they're as well coached as any team in the country, and they play with a tenacity and a toughness that is oftentimes unmatched. So we feel really fortunate that we were able to get this game in. We feel fortunate that it's a road game because this group needs that, because these games in Hawaii are coming after only 3 home games. So I think it's a great opportunity for our guys. And like I said, especially because they have some 5th-year seniors and some guys that have played in a lot of big games. It'll be a really good test for our younger roster.
Thanks so much, Coach. Appreciate it.
Much.
Yeah, Coach, you mentioned you're charting everything this year more than ever before. Has anyone in particular stood out, maybe a particular player's aspect of a game that has surprised you?
I don't really think so. I mean, I think that there's some ebbs and flows to everything. Some guys have played maybe in practice leading up to the foreign tour, played well, and then you guys everybody on this call and our fans got to watch on live stream what happened in those 4 games. So that was another body of work. And then we've divided it into 3 segments. And then the 3rd segment would be post foreign tour, how guys are. So we have cumulative stats, which means everything we've done since the first time we got together. And then we also have stats just from 4-game European tour, and then another set of stats post. The one thing I can tell you is, from a consistency standpoint, we're still in search of that. We have had guys that played really good in the foreign tour, maybe not had the same sets of numerical statistical categories that fall in line with post and pre foreign tour, which obviously is some guys are better practice players, some guys aren't. And that all falls into certain categories.
And having that foreign tour, having all that, statistical data you talked about in the exhibition game against Texas, do you think all that's going to help maybe speed up the process of like learning your team faster than maybe you do, early on in seasons and years past?
I mean, I think that was the reason that we're devoting so much time charting everything. I mean, for a lot of reasons. One, if somebody's inner circle's wondering why they might not have the role that they, wanted, there's a lot of data, too much data actually for us to utilize. But most importantly, the data is for our own players to see on a daily basis. We give them a daily update, and then we give them a weekly update, and then we give them a cumulative update. So they're getting 3 updates every single day of where they stand, where our team stands, where our team would rank in last year's college basketball. So where do we rank all the times we've been together? 3-point percentage. Where do we rank on last year's NCAA rankings? Where would we rank on deflections, as opposed to the 3 prior years to here. So I think it gives us a good barometer of where guys are. And, maybe 6 guys have really established themselves. And, we have 4 bigs that are still fighting out how that rotation is going to spill out into the first couple games. So not a whole lot of time left after being together for an entire summer, an entire, September. So, a short window now to try to solidify where they might be to start the season.
Scotty?
Eric, you kind of funneled right into my question. I was curious, like leading up to the red-white game.
Hopefully I didn't fumble, but
What's that?
I said, did you use
No,
the fumble?
funnel.
Okay.
Sorry. It led me right to it. I guess just leading up to this weekend, like what's your assessment of the front court? Like what's the competition with those 4 bigs? What's it looking like? What are you seeing from them?
Different things on different days. I think that, Makai Mitchell is he's got skill to play the 5, but has some 4 characteristics. He moves his feet really well when we switch. He's quick around the basket. He's got, good strength. Mikkel is a little bit more inside, a little bit more physical. Jalen Graham, more finesse as a post-up player and kind of can play in that 12 to 14 foot range. Obviously with Kamani Johnson, we understand, great loose ball getter, incredible offensive rebounder. But with all of our bigs, it's going to come down to little things like not turning the ball over, understanding second, third, and fourth options. How do they fit into our culture of practice that we do every single day? So a lot of the stuff that we're doing is really new for many of our players and the pace that we want to play at. So there still has been a learning curve with many of them.
We talked to Nick a little bit earlier, and I think kind of the gist of what he said was Sunday, he's just like focused on playing, hooping, and helping his team win. Just kind of seems like he's all business all the time. Kind of what's it like coaching a guy who's kind of got that mentality? He just wants to go play ball and win.
Yeah, I mean, Nick is a competitor in practice. He's a competitor in shooting drills. I'm sure he'll be a competitor, Sunday for the red and white game. And he and Anthony have done a good job, going against each other in practice, because we went through a 7-week period where we had both of those guys going against each other and both of them playing the point guard position. And then there's been times when we've played them together a little bit more of late, and they're playing really well off of each other. So yeah, I mean, I think with all, what we want is, 13 scholarship guys, the 2 walk-ons. We want, incredible intensity in practice, and we're still trying to have those numbers climb from where they are. We had to stop practice yesterday and pull out, a 3-minute Dallas Mavericks conditioning drill that Jason Kidd does with his players based on position. And we'll continue to do more and more conditioning drills this late into what we've considered training camp. Still not satisfied at all with the physical condition of 4 to 6 players that need to get in better condition prior to our first game.
And not to keep just like going back to the charting all the numbers and stuff, but is that like traveling around as much as you did since last season? And did you pick that up somewhere along the way, or is it just like a staff decision? Like we just want more insight on these guys.
Yeah, I think because there's so many new people, it was a lot of, really, Scotty, how do we evaluate as quick as possible with numbers, meaning numbers from Dave Rich, our strength coach, because they wear those things. And so we have it monitored where everybody ranks every day, where they monitor on how many jumps they do a day, how many basic steps, or what's the distance that they cover during practice. Then we have the statisticals, and then we have the eye test. And then we're also evaluating on execution. Is a guy getting a 6 out of 10 from an execution standpoint, being in the right spot at the right time, both offensively and defensively. So it's very, very clear where each and every one of our players ranks right now. And so, to us, there's pretty easy where guys kind of fall in line right now.
My DMs are open if you want to send me that stuff.
My DM's open too. I want to know about the women's clinic and any feedback you might have inside your house.
Not a negative thing said.
All right, Bob, sorry, you got time for one long one or 2 quick ones?
Or one Padre question.
Okay, well, no offense. We can talk about that later. But for the third time in 4 years, you're going to have the red white game in Barnhill. You obviously like having it there. What is it you like about being in Barnhill?
Just a great environment. It, I think people like being in there. I mean, I think it's an awesome arena. Kind of pays a little bit of, tribute to what's happened in the past. We're able to talk to our players about the history of it at some point before we step foot in there. Just watching the old footage of games that have played in there from a historical standpoint, it's awesome. I probably like it more than anybody else because, there's a little bit of extra work that goes into playing the game there, from trying to anchor down the baskets. And there's a few more lines on the court than there used to be. So, it's, not easy for everybody to pull off playing in there, but I love it.
I love it too. And then pro day, but both Nick and Jordan said you sort of prepped them, told them what to expect, and they both